Greetings, ladies and milligents, and welcome to the latest edition of RE378, where I take old stories I've narrated and update into modern audio standards. This particular story is called Juggernaut, written by Tam15. Sir, I think the system might be broken. This message isn't being flagged properly. I gently rubbed a grasper up my eye stalk, massaging blood up to the overstrained organs. 13 rotations, with barely enough time for a soak between drawing up endless plans and bobbing through pointless meetings. My secretary, bless his little hearts, only had to handle my messages and ensuring my drink was full. Stars, oh, what it would be like to just hand it all off to him and go curl up in my pool. So what if he didn't have the clearance, or the skills, or half a clip? Sir, I snapped out of my daydream. My sweet warm and focus on the present. I swiveled an eye stalk around. Yes, Zeal. This message is a mercenary responding to our open contract, but it's flagged as priority 1. That was odd. The odds that system had somehow misflagged the message were only slightly higher than a chance that 17 neutrinos had flown through a memory chip in just the right way to rewrite part of it, which meant that it was actually a coded message from a spy, of course. Zil was about 3 generations away from getting a security clearance to even acknowledge the existence of any spy, let alone one in deep cover, so... Oh, must be a human mercenary then. Send it over. Only slightly more likely than the neutrinos, but it was a possible answer. I was rather pleased with my ability to come up with a reasonable explanation, other than, oh, it's an error. Oh, it is an error, but don't open it. Also, send it over, and try to forget you saw this. In my sleep-deprived state, I glanced back at where Zil was carefully moving the cursor to hit the forward button. The poor fool, as if a message from a human would get angry if it was dragged too hastily. I paused, as vague intel reports surfaced in my sleep-deprived mind. The humans did have a sapient computers. If the reports were to be delivered, could a computer feel the message so after it was sent? Would it care? Bogus! Just 2 more rotations, then I could finally rest. Of course, after that, the actual invasion would begin, and I would be even more deprived of focus, damn it. I clicked open the message, and that was a Terran flag right there. Holy shit, welp. I mentally duplicated our main battle fleet and reimagined what its tactics would look like. It would mean redoing all of the plans, of course, but holy shit. I scanned out the message. Greetings, yada yada. I'm speaking on behalf of, So they did have sapient computers then. Or at least they were giving every impression they did. I glanced back at Zil. Did Terrans sell AI secretaries? Could I afford one if they did? We'll be arriving at 1400 standard this cycle. I glanced at the chronometer. Only 9:71 now. I had time. Arrangements and landing coordinates for a destroyer-class vessel flying under the transponder Avalon. I quickly began jotting out a message to the patrols and scouts to give full courtesy and not attempt any scans. We'll expect a meeting to cover terms of service upon our arrival. Then some closing pleasantries, and a signature way fancier than it had any right to be. Zil, once my 14 meeting, I sent off the message to the patrols, and began writing one to the blocking and traffic control. That's the meeting with the High Admiral and Lord Commander. Cancel it. The human is arriving then. Sir, I can shift it to 17 and cancel the pilot briefing, but are you sure? So maybe Zil did have half a clue. Look, Zil, if Lantern the Bright came walking in with a golden helmet and staff of flame and told you that you're meeting her at 1400, you are meeting her at 1400. Lord Commander or low Lord Commander. It really wasn't that different when I thought about it. I briefly wondered what the human was doing all the way out here on his spiral. It was a long way from human-dominated space. If it weren't for the automated exploration probe from them, they would have been dismissed as tall tales told in bars by long-distance traders. Even now, humans smudge the lines between fact and legend. I rubbed my eye stalks again. I had a lot of briefs and dossiers to read up on. I could hear the armor before I could see it, and I could feel it even before I could hear it. Great resonant thumps of the bipedal tank was the only word that did it justice. Sure, it was only the size of a large creature. Okay, very large creature. But it had a solidity, a presence, like a mountain on the horizon or a planet seen from space. But right there in front of you, or rather, several hallways away from you, from me, and getting closer. Shit. I had of course watched through cameras as the ship landed and the human exited. It was still a shock seeing it step through the door and stand up straight. I was both ecstatic and terrified as the human extended one gauntleted hand in traditional human greeting. Thankfully, my grasp was returned whole. I settled down into my chair on one side of the table. The human stood. I am honored that you decided to hire with us. I understand that you have some conditions. Formal, but not too differential. I was still going to be theoretically commanding. The pleasure is mine. The translated voice was metallic and solid and betrayed no hint of pleasure. Figures. First, you may not release any knowledge of my hiring to any neutral or opposing groups. I'm here for a fight, not to be some mascot. Well, there goes plan A. It would have worked, too. Shamed. Second, I will be assisting Sodi in the ground invasion. You do not need to defend my ship, but we will not engage. Another internal sigh as I mentally removed the extra feet worth of firepower that Destroyer would have added. Third, I am to be included in strategic discussions of the battle and will give input on my role. In battle, I may deviate from planned strategy if I deem it advantageous. I wondered what idiot of a commander he had served under in the past. I was smart enough to know that a mercenary would know their strengths best, and too tired to argue it even if I had been an idiot. All those requests seem perfectly reasonable. I'll make sure that the station has a proper message quarantine to prevent news of your arrival from slipping out. Hopefully the idiot watching this up in the communications had the clue to realize that meant him, right now, out of my hands. For payment, what is your price? 15 million, all up front. 15 million was a lot of money. It was enough to buy a battlecruiser with full plasma hard points, a plush carpet, and a coffee machine for every gunner. Deal. It was a steal, honestly. The human must be doing it for something other than money. Another handshake, and electronic signatures signed. I felt tension leaving my body. I hadn't fucked it up. At least, not yet. Still plenty of time. I distracted myself, bringing up the holographic display of the invasion plans. I will land here. The human's finger was pointed directly at the location of their planetary railguns. It was the biggest threat to any invading force, and the obvious target. As such, it had 10 times the defensive force of anywhere else. Well, except for the... And I will travel across to here. The human drew a straight line from the railguns to the capital, the Emperor's citadel. One thing was for sure. I was getting my money's worth. Well, technically it was the Republic's money, but I was spending it. Do you need or desire any backup or reinforcements? It was a formality, really. We both knew the human wouldn't. No. You may wish to deploy troops to take advantage of my path. Be warned, communications near me will not work. Did the human have some kind of jammer? Very well, I replied. Or maybe that suit just had so much firepower the energy disrupted communications. Do you require anything else before the invasion? Sleep, a deep soak, a secretary who... Focus. No, we'll send flight paths to your ship as soon as they are figured out. Actually, 2 soaks, with some sleep in between. Another near grasper, crushing experience, and the human was leaving. I sighed, massaged my eye stalks, and pulled open my messages from the room console. An irate message from Lord Commander, as expected. Apparently, communications actually had set up the message quarantine before the human even docked, so that was entirely taken care of. I blinked, then looked over at my inbox again. It was better organized than I remember. Hetzel's brush with the human made him suddenly more competent. I decided it must have been so, because the other option was that a Terran AI had bypassed every single firewall and security clearance, and that would require way too many forms to be filled out. I'd make a note of it, then pass it to intelligence, though, maybe, after I slept. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.